Yeah, smiling is contagious. It's infectious, isn't it? A lot of times we talk about how we want to be careful what we're thinking, what our attitudes are, all what we're putting out there, because it's infectious. It touches people without our intention. I mean, that's just the way energy works. It flows out. Well, smiling is a very obvious example of that. It is infectious, as is the other side. As she said, when you're crying, you bring on the rain, and kind of people around you will feel that too. Now, I'm not here to say don't cry, because we all have our moments, don't we? And I think, to be emotionally healthy, you got to let it out. That's perfectly okay. But this is about recognizing the power of a smile. And I love it because today is about gratitude being unabashed joy. Gratitude is unabashed joy. Or you could reverse that. Joy is unabashed gratitude. So I'm sure you all agree, but I also am sure that most of you, and along with me, sometimes just don't feel all that grateful or joyful. So here's how we can get that party started, is by smiling. I mean, I wasn't watching you. Fawny was. She'll tell me afterwards. If you were, maybe whatever mood you were in when you came in today, just for that moment when you were singing and smiling, didn't you feel uplifted somehow? I mean, just in that moment, it's so simple. But got the party started. There's a wise metaphysical master, W.C. Fields. How many of you know of W.C. Fields? He knew the importance of starting a day with a smile, and so he said this way. He said, start each day off with a smile and get it over with. So there is that. And then the other metaphysical master, George Burns. How many I should say, is there anyone who doesn't know George? Google him. So George Burns, of course, he liked the old songs. And remember that one, Let a Smile Be Your Umbrella? He said, well, I love the song. He said, the only problem, he's puffing on that big old cigar, with thinking about it and being real deeply thoughtful. He said, I tried that once, and I ended up with with a smile being my umbrella. He said, but I ended up with pneumonia for 6 weeks, then I ruined a $1,000 suit. Guess you need a real umbrella. A smile would not quite do it. But my favorite insight about smiling is from another very wise entity named Ziggy. Remember Ziggy cartoons? I don't even know if they're still around. Are they still around? Ziggy said, a smile is a facelift that is within everyone's price range. Yeah, it really is. How about that? Now, this is the fourth Sunday in a series that I've been doing on the whole idea of gratitude. And you can, for those of you who may not know, we have podcasts at our website. They're for free. And if you want to catch up on this, just go to the website and listen there. When I was thinking about this theme of gratitude in November, Thanksgiving and all, I really pondered the whole thing because I wanted to think of a different way to talk about gratitude and being thankful because, we all recognize how much we have to be grateful for, but we can still get a little bit blasé about it. And, almost not having it register really deeply. So I came across a book that I have been recommending all month long, and you can get it on Amazon. It's a lot of fun. It is Thank and Grow Rich. Not Think and Grow Rich, but Thank and Grow Rich by an author named Pam Grout. And the subtitle is A 30-Day Experiment in Shameless Gratitude and Unabashed Joy. Unabashed Joy. How about that? A book on gratitude talking equally about joy. And she uses those terms kind of interchangeably throughout the book. And I'm going to come back to that because I think that's a key thing about understanding how we can be and experience gratitude. But just to refresh you on this book, It's a riff on the title of the book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and she acknowledges that that's an excellent classic, Think and Grow Rich. But she said, maybe it's time to do less thinking and more thanking. Less thinking and more thanking, and just don't overthink it. And that's code for, actually, as you thank, you start to recognize how rich you really are. Thank and grow rich. So our theme for the month has been think less and thank more. Think less and thank more. The author reminds us, and this is a great spiritual truth that you know from many spiritual masters, and so this contemporary author, Pam Grout, says it this way. She says, when we practice this kind of gratitude, it never depletes us. It never depletes us. In fact, we discover that it actually opens a portal straight to the heart of the very field of infinite possibilities. Infinite possibilities. Anything but depletion. It opens us up to so much good. Now, she writes a little caveat in the beginning of the book that she says, this book won't do a thing for your 401k, and it won't do anything to help you secure the McMansion that you pasted on your vision board. It's not about getting rich in the conventional sense. And she said also there's nothing wrong with that. Great to be accumulating capital in that way. But she said, let me be very clear. Think and Grow Rich is about building a different kind of portfolio, a portfolio that is guaranteed to appreciate and to expand. Who wouldn't want that with a guarantee? To expand what? The unceasing abundance that you already have. That's what this is all about. Not getting anything, but recognizing and expanding as we recognize. Here's the part I enjoyed most about her book is that she doesn't have a list of how-tos, a list of rules, a list of steps. She doesn't like those either. She said that's too much like work. So instead of exercises, she said, I'm going to call these party games. And she has 27 very fun, very unique, outside-the-box ways of looking at life, of experimenting with some things that really open us up to gratitude and joy. So I've been sharing just a few of them with you each Sunday, and I invite you again to listen to the podcast, and you'll get more or get the book. So the first Sunday, just to remind you of Thank and Grow Rich, was Gratitude Just Makes Sense, and that was about the true riches of a consciousness of gratitude. And the second Sunday was Thank and Grow Rich, Gratitude is a Magnet, talking about the fact that a consciousness of gratitude can't help but attract more and more for which to be grateful. And then last Sunday was the tougher one, I think, because it was gratitude no matter what. This is not for effect. This is, excuse me. Gratitude no matter what. In other words, realizing that true gratitude is an attitude regardless of what we're facing in life. Blessings in disguise. We talked about that. Gratitude no matter what. So today, the big finish of this series is Gratitude is Unabashed Joy. Or as I said earlier, if you think about it, joy is really unabashed gratitude. Here's a simple example. If you give someone a gift or you do something for them, and their response is unabashed joyfulness, don't you feel thanked? I mean, doesn't your heart open and you say, oh, good, they liked what I did. The joy is their gratitude overflowing. They might not say thank you, but for me, when I give something or do something and someone is just in joy about it, that's thanks enough to me. So that's why Pam Grout in her book uses these terms of gratitude and joy interchangeably. And in fact, I was thinking about it some more. When I feel unabashed joy about something, it might be just a moment that gives me great joy. In that moment, I realize I am not feeling an ounce of ingratitude, and I'm not feeling burdened by any limitation. Think about it. In the moments when you are feeling just uninhibited, unabashed joy. There's no feeling of ingratitude. If you can slip out of that and go to ingratitude, you can slip out of it and go to lack. But in that moment, it's an abundant moment. But in our culture, we recognize that. We say, okay, I have some joy, I have some stuff, and now if I could just get more stuff, then I might even be more joyful. I mean, it's all over the commercials on TV for starters. Okay. I just came across this statement from the German philosopher Nietzsche. He said, the mother of excess is not joy, but joylessness. The mother of excess is not joy. In other words, we think we want more, and that'll give us more joy. He said, no. And you and I know when we stop and pay attention that it's really the opposite. It's joylessness. Excess is the result of our endless futile pursuit of what we think we need that we really don't need at all, or don't think we don't have enough of. And it's just the opposite of recognizing the abundance and the riches that we already have when we're thankful and thanking and being rich. So let's explore this some more. Joy, no matter what. I love the way Pam in her book says it. Shake your pom-poms at dang near everything. This is one of her little tips on how to move into joy. Shake those pom-poms at whatever's going on. She doesn't say shake your pom-poms when it's really a good day, or when you've gotten a gift, or when you're feeling abundant. Shake them at everything. Or if you're not quite up for shaking your pom-poms in the face of what's going on, start with what Fawny's saying about smile. Smile at dang near everything. It's a start. It's a start. It opens us up to a different way, and even to that joy and gratitude. It's incremental, but it's there. So that's one way to be open to unabashed joy and gratitude. Dr. Ernest Holmes, the architect of our philosophy, beautifully reminds us by saying this. There's a song of the universe, let's sing it. There's a laughter of God, let's laugh it. And there is a joy of the universe, let's experience it. Like my friend and colleague, Reverend Pat Campbell of Calgary, Canada, Center for Spiritual Living up there, wrote a book some years ago called Giving God a Good Time. Giving God a Good Time. And it's all about science of mind, the principles we teach, of course, and what I'm talking about today. So here's what she says. Are you ready to give God a good time? And she said, that's not asking God to give you a good time, but are you giving God a good time? Let's think about that. Have we? How often do we? I'd have a better time, God, if you just, rain down some blessings on me. She's saying, how about you giving God a good time? She says, of course. The God I'm talking about is not the big bearded guy in the sky who punishes or rewards on a whim. She says, I don't think that guy ever has a good time. She said, the God I'm talking about is the loving energy that flows in and through and around everything and everyone. It is the life force that animates and lives through its creation. That would be through you, through me. That's what she's talking about. And Thomas Troward, who was a great influence on Ernest Holmes, and he was a judge, so that meant he had been a lawyer, and that meant his writing was very analytical and very linear and very meticulous. And it's wonderful to read. And as he explains the principles that we teach, he just does it in a very, very structured way. So it surprised me when I saw in one of the things he wrote, he said, and he expands on it, but this is the line that caught my attention. Spirit wants to enjoy life. Spirit wants to enjoy life. Again, Spirit wants to enjoy life by means of us. And there's a Sanskrit saying that sums it up beautifully. A Sanskrit saying from ancient times says, translation says, "Thou art God, and God enjoys being God." By means of you, of course, because you are God expressing. So, wow. Looks like the mandate is, the gift is, unabashed joy. So how do we do this? How do we give God a good time? Pretty simple. By living full out. Living with joy and fun and laughter. Living our uniqueness. I grew up in a tradition that was pretty much excluding all of that as a way of being spiritual. Laughter, fun, all of that was, you did that outside of church, and you had to really watch what was making you laugh and have fun. Anybody else relate to that when you were growing up? Yeah, a few of us. So how wonderful to realize that when we're laughing, having fun, joyful, living our uniqueness, we're doing what God intended, what the Creator intended. Couldn't be any better than that. Couldn't be more spot on than that. To give God a good time, or to express that unabashed joy. Now, sometimes to do this, we need to get out of our own way. Have you noticed who's in the way but me, right? I know I'm born with this irrepressible joy. Look at babies. They're a great example. And even pets. So there's just an innate joyfulness. So what happened? We let things get in the way. Reminds me of a story, presumably about Alexander the Great. And he needed some philosophical guidance. And so he sought out the famous philosopher Diogenes. Found him sitting under a tree, dressed in rags, in total poverty. And here's this powerful Alexander the Great. And he asked Diogenes if he could do anything for him. You see this person you're going to for guidance and advice, and he's sitting there in rags and poverty, and is there anything I can give you to help you? And the reply came from Diogenes, well, yes. If you could just step out of the way, I would be grateful, because you're blocking the sun. Get out of our own way, of our innate shining happiness. So we might say, well, of course, I agree with that. Well, getting out of our own way, that's a whole seminar, isn't it? Because it's about letting go of at least some of our stories, our habits, our insecurities, our assumptions about life, obsessing about when I get this, then I will be happy. When I accomplish that, then I will be joyful. And, of course, then I will be grateful. That's being in our own way, because we're not even noticing the joy that's already present in us. Take a page from Socrates. I don't know if this is really true. I love it, though. I'm going to pretend it is. That when he saw a heap of gold and jewelry being carried through the streets, now if we saw that, we'd probably say, oh, wow, gimme. And he exclaimed with great joy, he said, Look at how many things there are that I don't need and I don't want. Folks, it just was Black Friday. You want to take a page to Black Friday and say, look at all the things, all the shopping I don't have to do, and all the things I don't want and I don't need. Someone wrote on Facebook, I saved 100% by not shopping on Black Friday at all. There's a couple who was driving around on Sunday afternoon, and they like to take turns picking out certain houses and explaining how they would remodel them. I guess this is before is it HGTV that does that? Yeah. So one day they were driving along, and they saw an old, dilapidated house that looked like it was abandoned. And so they stopped their car in front of it, and one of them said, I tell you what I'd do with that shack. I'd bulldoze it down and I'd start all over. It was that bad. Well, at that moment, it wasn't abandoned. An elderly gentleman stepped out of the house onto the front porch, And he had a big smile on his face. And just joy exuded from it. And he waved them as though they were long-lost friends. And they waved back. And then they drove on, and one of them said, "Do you think he would have been that friendly and joyful if he knew what I said about his house?" And after a pause, the other one said, "Probably so. Probably so." He was living from his inner gifts, his inner joy. Unabashed joy, no matter what. Remember the Harvard neuroscientist Jill Bolte Taylor, who wrote that book, My Stroke of Insight? It's a marvelous book that I invite you to check out, read it. If you've read it, reread it again, because it speaks so clearly to the purity of what we're talking about, of that joy that's in us, that we have it all. There's nothing lacking. So now that she's fully recovered, she is in great gratitude every day. So she said, "I wake up every morning, I wiggle my toes, I wiggle my fingers, and I say to my cells, 'Good morning, girls. Thanks for another great day.'" Do you do that in the morning? Say, "Good morning, girls and boys. Hey, here we go, another great day. Thank you for being." Now that'll give you joy. Now, one of my favorite wise people, I'm going to close with this. One of my favorite wise writers and creators is a man named Brian Andreas. Some of you may know he creates little whimsical cartoons called the Story People, and they come out, I get them every day, and always there's some little wisdom. So here's the one I want to leave you with. And the little character pencil drawing is saying, "I love it when people ask me to tell them my secret for being joyful. Although I don't really have a secret other than 3 things. 1, I don't think the universe is out to get me. 2, I don't listen very long to people who want to convince me that I should be unhappy." Should I say that one again? I mean, how we're so tempted to, it's so seductive. I don't listen very long to people who want to convince me that I should be unhappy. And number 3, I pay attention to things that make me unhappy, and I stop doing them as soon as possible. Pretty much the whole secret. Gratitude truly is unabashed joy, and you have it in you already. So let me leave you, instead of saying namaste, I'm going to say joy must stay. There you go.